Intro. We all remember the blockbusters, the explosions, the perfectly timed one-liners, the heroes walking away from fire without looking back. Hollywood has taught us what action is supposed to feel like: precise, loud, spectacular. But what if the foundation of modern action cinema wasn't built by the classics everyone knows, but by the misfits no one remembers? Long before John Wick redefined gunplay or Drive made silence a weapon, there were films obscure, underwatched, dismissed, that quietly changed everything. They didn't dominate box offices. They didn't spawn franchises. And yet filmmakers copied their style, stole their tone, and built careers on the ground they had broken. These are the ghost ancestors of modern action, the unsung prototypes that dared to try something new when no one else would. Films that combined genres before the studios allowed it. That put women in charge before the culture caught up. That shot stunts so raw, they made polished scenes today with clever limitations. And yet, no one talks about it. They've been left behind by streaming elements, buried beneath the careless remix, lost in the dust of time. This is the same safe titles, but we haven't forgotten. And today, neither will we. Because behind every great action film you love today, there's probably one forgotten masterpiece whispering in its shadow. Let's dive into 15 action movies that changed our world forever. Beer. Point Blank 1967. Imagine a revenge story told in fragments, where time fractures and violence feels like memory. Point Blank, directed by John Boorman in 1967, wasn't just ahead of its time, it was out of it entirely. The film follows Walker, played with brutal stillness by Lee Marvin, as he hunts down the men who betrayed him. On the surface, it's a simple revenge plot, but Point Blank unfolds like a dream, disjointed, quiet, chilling. Boorman discarded traditional narrative flow and instead embraced cold visuals, minimalist dialogue, and sharp, sudden bursts of violence. This was action cinema stripped of its glamour. There are no slow-motion dives, no crowd-pleasing quips, just silence, menace, and unresolved pain. At the time, audiences were confused. Critics were divided. The film didn't make waves commercially, but filmmakers were watching. The stark framing, you see it in Drive. The moral ambiguity, John Wick owes it a drink. The existential anti-hero, Taxi Driver, The American, Collateral, they all echo Walker's ghost. Ironically, Point Blank never got the recognition it deserved during its era. It was too cold, too strange, too un-Hollywood. But in retrospect, it lit a fuse that would burn quietly for decades. The blast? Still going off? But if Point Blank was the match, the driver was the silent engine revving in the dark. #2, The Driver, 1978. He doesn't have a name. He barely speaks. He drives like a ghost, precise, detached, surgical. In 1978, director Walter Hill delivered The Driver, a film so stripped down it feels like watching a myth unfold. Ryan O'Neal plays the unnamed getaway driver who lives by one rule: perfection or death. There's no exposition, no backstory, no justification. He exists for one thing, the drive. At the time, critics tore it apart. They called it empty, emotionless, even pretentious. The film flopped in the US, but across the ocean, in France, it was hailed as a masterpiece of minimalism, a pure distillation of character and atmosphere. And then, it vanished. But years later, Drive, 2011, resurrected its DNA. From the nameless protagonist to the muted color palette, Nicholas Winding Refn didn't just pay homage, he resurrected an entire movie. Tarantino, Edgar Wright, and Michael Mann have all cited The Driver as an influence. Its chase scenes brutal, mechanical, silent felt, more real than any blockbuster at the time. It wasn't about speed, it was about control, stillness, tension. The irony? Hollywood rejected it until they needed it. The Driver didn't fail, it just arrived too early. It paved a road that stylish loners would drive down for decades, and it wasn't alone. Just 1 year earlier, another film delivered a punch that Hollywood still hasn't fully recovered from, and it came wrapped in trauma and steel. Shubaka Thalatha, Rolling Thunder, 1977. Some war stories never end. In Rolling Thunder, they just come home and keep burning. Some war stories never end. In Rolling Thunder, they just come home and keep burning. It sounds like pulp, but Rolling Thunder plays it cold, grim, and deadly serious. There's no heroism, no catharsis, just trauma, silence, and slow, methodical violence. In 1977, this was too much. The film was considered too dark. it was recut for release. But even in its muted form, it left scars. A decade later, you feel its influence in First Blood, Rambo's haunted eyes, his precision kills. In John Wick, the trigger pulled by grief, the blood-soaked calm, Tarantino called Rolling Thunder, a major inspiration. He tried to remake it. He quotes it like gospel. Its chase scenes brutal, mechanical, silent felt, more real than any blockbuster at the time. It wasn't about speed. It was about control, stillness, tension, and the world wasn't ready. But that didn't stop its echoes from bleeding into every tortured anti-hero who came next. And in the shadows of this quiet storm, something explosive was building this time, led by a woman with nothing left to lose. Hash 4. The Long Kiss Goodnight. 1996. Before Kill Bill, before Atomic Blonde, before Hollywood realized women could be just as lethal and just as complex, there was The Long Kiss Goodnight. Geena Davis, known for warm roles, transforms into a smoking, swearing, blade-wielding killer. And it works. She doesn't become the female version of anything. She is the prototype. Brutal, sarcastic, intelligent, and terrifyingly efficient. Hash 4. The Long Kiss Goodnight. 1996. The film flopped. Critics were confused. Some blamed its tone, others blamed its timing. Action heroines weren't in style. The world wasn't listening, but the industry was watching. The Long Kiss Goodnight became a secret, blueprint borrowed, twisted, diluted. You can trace its DNA in Salt, La Femme Nikita, Red Sparrow, and Peppermint. Even Jason Bourne owes it a nod. The lost identity, the trained killer, the cold reawakening. It was everything the genre would become. But it came too early, and it came wrapped in the body of a woman, so Hollywood buried it. But make no mistake, when Samantha lights that cigarette with a blowtorch, she doesn't just burn down her enemies, she torches the old rules. And in the scorched ruins of genre expectations came a creature far stranger than fiction. The Hidden. 1987. Imagine an alien parasite that turns humans into thrill-seeking murderers who love fast cars, whose heart and heavy weapons. Chasing the idea it's not human. That's The Hidden. A 1987 sci-fi, divided by action hybrid, directed by Jack Shoulder. Kyle MacLachlan plays an FBI agent who seems gone. His partner doesn't trust him. The criminals they chase keep dying and showing up in someone else's body. At first glance, it's just another alien chase flick. But look closer. This was Men in Black before the jokes. Venom before the beats. Ballroom before the beats. Before the guitar solo. Chaotic, strange, irresistible. Car chases, crashes, shootouts, bodies explode, and identities spawn. Yet at its core is a chilling idea. Evil doesn't wear a face. It just finds one. The Hidden never found a big audience. Too weird, too late. Studios didn't know how to market. Critics didn't know. The tone, a mix of deadpan horror and high-octane action, had echoed for decades. The body-hopping villain became a trope. The stoic agent with alien knowledge. The temple. That's The Hidden. 1987 sci-fi, divided by action hybrid, directed by Jack Shoulder. Kyle MacLachlan plays an FBI agent who seems off. His partner doesn't trust him. The criminals they chase keep dying and then showing up in someone else's body. The film moves like a 90-minute guitar solo. Chaotic, strange, irresistible. Car chases, crashes, shootouts, bodies explode, and identities swallowed up. Yet at its core, evil doesn't wear a face. It just finds one. But for our next film, we ditch sci-fi and step into warrior suits, cityscapes, and a car chase that rewrote Rowdy 6. To Live and D. In LA. 1985. You know how car chases in movies feel choreographed, like you're watching ballet with brake lights? Not in To Live and D in LA. Directed by William Friedkin, the man behind The French Connection, this 1985 thriller tossed all safety out the window. Literally. The story follows a reckless Secret Service agent hell-bent on avenging his partner's death. What unfolds is corruption, counterfeiting, and a descent into moral rot, all painted in LA's neon twilight. shot without permits, across active highways, against traffic. It's pure chaos. No music, no flashy edits, just screeching tires and screaming steel. It's not about speed, it's about panic. And it changed how Hollywood staged action forever. Directed by William Friedkin, the man behind The French Connection, this 1985 thriller tossed all safety out the window. Literally. The tone, a mix of deadpan horror and high-octane action, has been echoed for decades. The body-hopping villain became a trope, the stoic agent with alien knowledge, a template. But To Live and Die in LA wasn't just about the stunts. It was stylish, cynical, and brutally adult. The hero doesn't survive. Justice doesn't win. It was the anti-action movie hiding in plain sight. At the box office, it underperformed. But in director circles, it became a Bible. The action didn't just look real, it felt real, ugly, inescapable. The story follows a reckless Secret Service agent hell-bent on avenging his partner's death. What unfolds is corruption, counterfeiting, and a descent into moral rot, all painted in LA's neon twilight. Next, we go from highways to alleys, from agents to fathers, and find out what happens when the action gets personal. Shabaks ba, hardcore, Elif watis armia watis hawasabrun. Before Taken made, I will find you into a father's war cry. Hardcore whispered something colder and far more real. Directed by Paul Schrader, the screenwriter behind Taxi Driver, Hardcore tells the story of a conservative Midwestern father whose teenage daughter disappears while on a church trip. When he discovers she's been pulled into the underground porn industry in Los Angeles, he leaves everything behind to find her and descends into a world he doesn't understand. This isn't traditional action. There are no roundhouse kicks, no slow-motion shootouts. But the tension? It's suffocating. The violence? Always simmering, always personal. George C. Scott plays the father not as a hero, but as a man breaking slowly, irreversibly. There are scenes in Hardcore that feel ripped from Taken long before Taken existed. The lonely hotel rooms, the confrontations with gatekeepers of dark subcultures, the brutal outbursts from a man who's lost his sense of morality, but not his sense of purpose. Yet Hardcore was too bleak for audiences in 1979. Its honesty was suffocating, its portrayal of urban decay felt too raw, and its main character was not a savior. He was a damaged man looking for scraps of hope. But filmmakers remembered. You see echoes of Hardcore in Prisoners, in Man on Fire, in Sicario. It's the godfather of the good man forced into darkness subgenre. It asks the question action films are often afraid to face. What if your enemy is the world itself? And as that moral fog thickens, the next film takes us deeper into the bayou, where soldiers fight shadows and paranoia. Shubak Thamaniya, Southern Comfort, Elf wa Tisamia wa Wahid wa Thamanun. It starts with a training mission. No ammo, no real threat. Just a group of weekend soldiers navigating the Louisiana swamp. Then something goes wrong. In Southern Comfort, director Walter Hill strips the war film down to its bones. There's no battlefield, just fog. No enemy in uniform, just whispers in the trees. And the action? It's not spectacle, it's survival. 9 National Guardsmen cocky, unprepared insult the wrong locals and find themselves hunted by Cajun trackers who know the swamps like a religion. What begins as a prank spirals into full-blown guerrilla warfare. The genius of Southern Comfort lies in what it doesn't explain. The enemy never speaks. The land is a character unpredictable, unforgiving. The violence is sudden and ugly. No music swells. No speeches are made. Then something goes wrong. Then something goes wrong. In Southern Comfort, director Walter Hill strips the war film down to its bones. There's no battlefield, just fog. No enemy in uniform, just whispers in the trees. And the action? It's not spectacle, it's survival. In Southern Comfort, the jungle isn't overseas, it's home. And as the soldiers disappear one by one, the film asks, what happens when the monsters don't come from space or labs, but from the silence just beyond the trees? Next, we trade the swamp for a yacht, and the rifle for riddles in a murder mystery that taught action how to be clever. #9, The Last of Sheila, 1973. Before Knives Out made murder fun, before Clue turned death into a parlor game, there was The Last of Sheila, a mystery so layered, so ruthless, It could only have come from Hollywood insiders. Written by Stephen Sondheim and Anthony Perkins, yes, that Anthony Perkins, the film takes place aboard a luxury yacht. A wealthy producer invites a group of industry friends to play a week-long murder mystery game, but soon, secrets surface. Real ones, deadly ones. On paper, it's a whodunit. In execution, it's a loaded weapon aimed at the elite. The characters, all thinly veiled, versions of real Hollywood types, unravel under pressure. The game reveals their sins: adultery, abuse, betrayal, worse. And as the clues stack, so do the bodies. There are no car chases, no explosions, but the last of Sheila influenced action by injecting it with something often missing: intelligence. The idea that danger doesn't have to be loud. That tension can come from who knows what and when. Rian Johnson cited it as a key influence on Knives Out. David Fincher and Steven Soderbergh have praised its structure. Even Mission Impossible borrowed its layered reveals and hidden identities. At the time, audiences were puzzled. It was too sharp, too specific. But for filmmakers, it was a masterclass. The Last of Sheila proved that action could be cerebral, that the mind, when pushed, is as dangerous as any weapon. And sometimes, the sharpest blade hides behind a smile or a designer suit. Thousands of miles from home. Shabakwa Yusuffer, Black Rain, Elf,
The box office, winning Oscar. And this is a Ridley Scott film that's
blade sharp suits,
way to go,
steam hissing
stuntman.
from grates in an
Or is that Michael
unfamiliar
Douglas?
city,
In it,
and
Michael
two
Douglas
American
plays
cops
a corrupt
completely
with
out
their
of their
former
depth. Black
captive
Rain,
cutting a swath
directed by Ridley
through the
Scott in
Locan
1989,
who's
dropped
probably
Michael
one of the
Douglas
biggest
into
star
a
in
postmodern
Japan in the
Tokyo
80s,
and lit the
who this
fuse
was
for an
the last
entire
riding
wave
high
of
in
East meets
1989.
West action
Following his
cinema. He
Oscar
plays a
career and more
disgraced
hard-edged
NYPD
ministerial
detective,
downswing
escorting a
following star
Yakuza
power.
suspect
Black
back
Rain
to
was only a
Japan. When the
modest hit
suspect
time,
escapes,
although
the
worldwide,
chase
it was
begins
pretty
through
solid hit,
alleys,
grossing 80s
bathhouses,
action
and the
cinema,
moral gray
although I'd
zones
imagine
of
people that
honor,
aren't into
duty,
doing at
and
the time.
vengeance. But
Sandwiched
Black
between
Rain wasn't
Douglas's
just a
more
crime
ones of
thriller.
either. Now,
It was a
Black Rain is
cultural
an 80s
collision.
gem from
Scott
maybe
painted Tokyo
trying
like a
a little
noir
too
dream,
hard to
all
establish him
chrome,
as a center
shadow,
lead. He'd
and
probably
steel.
be
The
eventually
violence is
vindicated.
stylized
But
but
we
brutal.
every word
The
translated,
characters are
understand.
flawed. The
Yes, I
setting
understand.
disorienting.
Andy Garcia,
Douglas's character,
decapitated
confident
and
in New
really far
York,
removed from the
becomes
baddies
lost
he
in
chases.
translation
He's
both
essentially the
literally
best
and
thing about the
ethically.
movie.
At
And
release,
Douglas
the
initially
film
treats
was
him
seen
like
as
a joke,
slick
is
but
among the
cold.
scarier ones of
Critics
the 80s,
shrugged.
sporting this
Audiences
craving
were
he had into
unsure.
it. Likewise,
But look
Ridley
closer.
Scott, who
The
one might assume
Wolverine,
Angela-
Bullet Train,
It just goes to
Rush
show you
Hour,
that he said
even
that, I
Kill
remember
Bill
when the
all
picture
echo
first came
Black
out,
Rain's
it was
atmosphere.
very- then
The
what do you think you're
outsider
talking
stumbling
about?
into
Then
a
a few
rigid
weeks later,
code,
it gets-
the violent
I do
elegance
think
of the
that
East,
Douglas
the
maybe
fish out of water
exaggerated
detective
was going to
clashing with a
Japan.
deadlier
Thinking back
world.
then, how
It
many
proved that
electric
action didn't
audiences
need to
this
stay
movie that revealed
domestic.
that Andy
That
Garcia
mood could be
dies.
weaponized.
Brain, I had
That
seen
style
enough of
could
these
cut
movies
deeper
to
than
know that
plot.
Andy
And
Garcia
behind that
definitely
thick
does that,
Tokyo
but
fog,
Andy Garcia
Black
is
Rain
so
asked,
damn like
what happens when justice speaks the wrong language?
One
From
to pull
neon
through.
streets to
All this
frozen
makes
rails,
his
the
eventual
next
death
film
all
takes
the
us on a
more
ride where escape
Black
is
Rain is easily
impossible
available
and
on
speed
DVD
is survival.
and
A-List, Runaway Train, 1985.
You'll
Two
die.
convicts escape
You're as
a
afraid to
maximum
die as
security
anybody
prison in
else.
Alaska. They find a
I
freight
am
train,
free.
no crew, no brakes, just momentum,
Win.
and death. The Wolverine,
Lose.
Bullet
What
Train,
about that punk
Rush
and the
Hour,
girl?
even Kill Bill, all
Just
echo
you and
Black
me.
Rain's atmosphere. The outsiders stumbling into a rigid code, the violent elegance of the East, the fish out of water detective clashing with a deadlier world. The concept is simple. The execution is thunderous. The train barrels forward, unstoppable. The men, trapped. The cold, merciless. There are no villains, just entropy, nature, machinery, fate. At the time, the film was praised for its performances, but wasn't considered a defining action piece. Yet it was, not for its stunts, but for its philosophy. Runaway Train asked if escape is freedom or just a faster road to oblivion. It influenced everything from Snowpiercer to Unstoppable to The Gray. Films where survival isn't triumph, it's punishment. Where motion doesn't equal progress. The cinematography is raw, the sound design deafening. The final shot, a silhouette of a man embracing doom in a machine that reflects his soul.
You'll
Hollywood
die.
often
You're as
celebrates
afraid to
control.
die as anybody
Runaway Train
else.
dared to celebrate
I am
inevitability.
free.
And from the silence of snow and steel, we
Win.
arrive at something darker,
Lose.
sexier,
What about that
and
punk
far
and the
more
girl?
dangerous than expected. Shubaku Wahdafnan, Romeo is bleeding. Elf Watisemi'a Wathalatha Watis'un. He's a cop. She's a killer.
I'm Jim
He's married.
Doherty.
She's
I run
seductive.
her,
He thinks
goes
he's in
into a
control.
phone
He's
booth.
not. Romeo is bleeding.
I was in court.
He's a dream of lust, betrayal, and blood. Gary
Same as
Oldman
old.
plays Jack.
It's new world, right? No way Nick was gonna make it back to this.
Compromises. When he's
He didn't
assigned
want to
protect
think about
and
that.
eventually kill a mob assassin named Mona, played by a terrifying Lena Olin. The line between predator and prey dissolves.
Cute.
The film oozes
I gotcha.
raw, not just in
But
tone,
I'd,
but in texture. Sweat, smoke, neon, and lights. It's a clinches.
I take it.
Critics at the time hated it.
You're gonna take my shield, you're gonna put me back in fucking US. What are they got?
Involvement in Markov and FBI agent Stevens. His death by suicide. Criminal conspiracy charges.
And burn it did. You see its fingerprints all over Sin City,
It's all yours.
even Jessica Jones. The femme
Sanguination
fatale
by
reimagined
internal
not as a
hemorrhage.
sidekick, but as an elemental force. The anti-hero not as tragic, but as doomed from the start. The action isn't heroic. It's desperate, brutal, intimate. A gunfight in a motel room, a body in the trunk, a scream muffled by love and fear. It's not about justice. It's about consequences.
Hello,
And
Norm?
in a world where everyone's bleeding, the question isn't if you'll get shot, it's who you'll take down with you. Next up, we head to Hong Kong, where bullets
Jack,
fly like poetry.
you have the right
and
to remain
action becomes a
silent.
dance of death. Hassoon 3, The Killer, 1989. If ballet had bullets, it would look like The Killer. Directed by John Woo and released in 1989, The Killer isn't just an action film, it's a sermon on violence. Chow Yun-fat plays a hitman who accidentally blinds an innocent woman during a job. Racked with guilt, he takes on one last mission to fund her surgery. But in the process, he becomes both hunter and hunted. This is where Gun Fu was born. Wu's signature-style slow-motion shootouts, dual-wielding pistols, doves flying through broken glass, all crystallized here. But beneath the operatic carnage is a core of aching humanity. The violence isn't cool, it's tragic. Every bullet has a consequence. Every death, a reflection. Hollywood took notes. Then it took everything else. You can trace the killer in The Matrix, face divided by off, equilibrium, John Wick. The choreography, the framing, the emotional stakes all echo Wu's masterpiece. But in the West, it arrived too late. Miramax released it with minimal marketing. It was dubbed, mistranslated, diminished, yet filmmakers remembered. Tarantino called it pure cinema. Robert Rodriguez used it as a storyboard. Even Mission Impossible two-handed Wu the keys, but never gave him back the soul. The Killer didn't just redefine shootouts. It redefined what action could feel like: operatic, spiritual, doom. And from Hong Kong's crimson-lit cathedrals, we descend into something even stranger, a rock musical about street warfare that no one asked for and no one forgot. Hassoon 4, Streets of Fire, 1984. It begins with a concert, a kidnapping, a neon explosion. Streets of Fire, released in 1984 and directed by Walter Hill, calls itself a rock and roll fable, but that barely scratches the surface. Imagine Grease filtered through Blade Runner, soaked in gasoline, and set on fire. That's Streets of Fire. The story is pulp. A tough-as-nails ex-soldier returns to his dystopian hometown to rescue a singer his ex from a leather-clad biker gang. There are shotguns, chain fights, exploding motorcycles, and a pounding, synth-heavy soundtrack that feels like it's trying to outrun the film itself. Critics didn't know what to do with it. Audiences were confused. It wasn't a musical. It wasn't an action movie. It was something in between, something new. But visually, it was a revolution. The industrial backdrops, stylized lighting, rain-drenched alleyways, they became templates. Music videos copied it. Commercials copied it. The Warriors, Drive, Scott Pilgrim, even Cyberpunk 2077 owe it a debt. It was action by way of myth, a modern western told in power chords and punches. It bombed, badly, but it refused to die. Cult status followed, and in every synthwave revival, in every side-scrolling brawler game, in every movie where the city is more character than backdrop, Streets of Fire flickers. And now, for our final film, a descent into the future that predicted too much, too soon. شباك واحد خمسة, Strange Days, 1995. New Year's Eve, 1999. The world is ending, and someone is selling memories. Strange Days, directed by Catherine Bigelow and produced by James Cameron, arrived in 1995, and no one was ready. Ralph Fiennes plays a black market dealer of playback clips, digital recordings of real human experiences, viewed through a neural headset. Want to rob a store? Feel a stranger's death? Revisit a lover's orgasm? Just press play. It's sci-fi, it's noir, it's political, and it moves like a freight train of dread. The film explores racism, surveillance, tech addiction, and the commodification of trauma in 1995. 20 years too early, but it's action, raw, personal, terrifyingly immersive. Bigelow uses first-person, point-of-view shots that put you inside the violence, not watching it, living it. The result is disorienting and electric. It redefined what adrenaline looks like on screen. The film explores racism, surveillance, tech addiction, and the commodification of trauma in 1995. 20 years too early, but time vindicated it. Games like Cyberpunk 2077, Hardcore Henry, even Black Mirror episodes all owe it a creative debt. Its vision of the near future was too real, too raw. It scared people. It should have, because Strange Days asked a question Hollywood still avoids. What happens when action doesn't thrill you anymore? It scars you. At release, Strange Days bombed. Audiences didn't want this kind of future. Critics dismissed it as incoherent. The studio buried it. And that's the countdown. Bonus fact: Deadly Prey. This one didn't make the top 15, but it might just be the strangest of all. A man in cut-off denim shorts. A jungle that looks suspiciously like a public park. An elite mercenary squad defeated by one barefoot dude with a mullet. Bonus fact: Deadly Prey. Games like Cyberpunk 2077, Hardcore Henry, even Black Mirror episodes all owe it a creative debt. Its vision of the near future was too real, too raw. It scared people. It should have. The plot is absurd. Vietnam vet Mike Danton is kidnapped and hunted for sport by a private military organization, only to turn the tables and take them out one by one, using twigs, mud, and his bare hands. It's unpolished, overacted, unintentionally hilarious, and weirdly unforgettable. So why mention it here? Because Deadly Prey is the Rosetta Stone of VHS-era action excess. It distilled every 1,980 seconds trope lone soldier, slow neck breaks, angry colonels, revenge montages into a single, glorious fever dream. And in doing so, it became a secret blueprint. Filmmakers from Robert Rodriguez to the creators of Far Cry have cited low-budget action films like Deadly Prey as influence. It's B-movie DNA embedded deep inside modern pop culture. It's the unrefined scream that echoed through a generation of indie action. It's what happens when you strip away everything but instinct. And somehow, against all logic, it survived. On bootlegs, on YouTube, in midnight screenings. Because while Hollywood was polishing its blockbusters, this little film was digging a trench and waiting. Mon CTA. Get video. Which of these forgotten films hit you the hardest? Was it the one that predicted the future? Or the one that rewrote the past without anyone noticing? Do we remember great action because of the explosions or because of the risks no one saw coming? Which of these forgotten films hit you the hardest? Was it the one that predicted the future? Or the one that rewrote the past without anyone noticing?